If you knew your time was running out, how would you live so you wouldn't regret a single moment? Would you keep doing exactly what you're doing now? Would you still spend hours scrolling through other people's lives instead of living your own? Or would you finally take that trip, mend that broken relationship, or start that dream you've been putting off for years? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history, spent his life exploring the meaning of life, the patterns of the human mind, and the ways we can live fully before it's too late. And he left behind 7 life-changing lessons. Lessons you don't want to discover only at the end. Most of us live as if we have all the time in the world. We tell ourselves, I'll do it later. I'll call them tomorrow. I'll start next year. But what if later never comes? Jung's wisdom isn't just about psychology. It's a mirror that shows you the life you're truly living right now, and the life you could be living. These are lessons about courage, authenticity, love, and purpose, the kind of wisdom that can help you stop drifting and start living intentionally. And here's the thing. These aren't vague, inspirational quotes. Each one is a practical shift you can make today. Shifts that can turn ordinary days into meaningful ones. Shifts that can help you avoid regrets in life and create a story worth remembering. So before we dive into these 7 powerful truths from Carl Jung, I want you to ask yourself something and be brutally honest. If your time was running out, what would you change first? Would it be how you spend your mornings, who you choose to be with, or maybe finally daring to be the version of yourself you've been hiding from the world? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those changes could be, and more importantly, how to make them now. Because the greatest tragedy isn't running out of time. It's realizing too late that you never truly lived. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." It's a line that sounds poetic, but it's also a roadmap for living a meaningful life. Most of us spend years chasing external goals, promotions, possessions, praise. We measure our worth by how the world reacts to us. But Jung reminds us that real transformation starts from within. Think about it. How can you know what kind of life you want if you've never stopped to really know yourself? What are your true values, ones that make you feel alive, not just accepted? What do you want your life to stand for when time runs out? Self-awareness isn't a luxury. It's the foundation for everything else. Without it, you risk climbing the wrong ladder your whole life, only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. So how do you look inside? Keep a daily journal where you don't filter your thoughts, let your real voice emerge. Practice mindfulness or meditation, even for just 5 minutes a day, to quiet the noise long enough to hear yourself. Work with a therapist or coach who can hold up a mirror to your blind spots. Because here's the truth, when you know yourself deeply, the life you build will fit you perfectly instead of feeling like an outfit you're constantly adjusting to please others. Jung also spoke about the persona, the social mask we put on to fit in, to be liked, to meet expectations. We all have one. It's the version of ourselves that's polished and approved for public view. But here's the danger: if you live only as your persona, you risk forgetting who you actually are. The self, your authentic core, is where your unique purpose, creativity, and joy live. But it's also the part that feels most vulnerable. Showing it can be scary because it means some people won't approve. Ask yourself, how often do you say yes when your soul is screaming no? How many of your choices are made because you truly want them versus because you think you should? Living as yourself means choosing authenticity over approval. It means building a life where you don't have to perform just to be accepted. And yes, it will cost you something, maybe certain relationships, maybe the comfort of blending in. But it will give you something far greater, a life that's yours. Here's a quick story. A friend of mine was a lawyer for nearly 20 years. She was respected, well paid, and completely miserable. Her persona was successful attorney, but herself a painter who had been hiding her art for decades. When she finally left her firm to paint full-time, she lost colleagues who didn't understand her choice. But she gained mornings filled with color, afternoons lost in creativity, and a sense of alignment she'd never felt before. That's the power of living from yourself. You stop feeling like a stranger in your own life. So here's my challenge to you. What would your life look like if you knew yourself deeply and had the courage to live from that truth no matter what anyone else thought? Carl Jung believed that every single one of us carries something he called the shadow. It's the part of ourselves we try to hide, the traits we judge as unacceptable, the mistakes we wish we could erase, the impulses we're ashamed to admit. Most people spend their lives pretending the shadow doesn't exist. They push it down, lock it away, and put on their acceptable face for the world. But here's the paradox Jung discovered. The more you deny your shadow, the more control it has over you. Think about the last time you overreacted to something small. Maybe a comment from a coworker made you unreasonably angry, or you found yourself judging someone harshly only to realize deep down you saw a part of yourself in them. That's your shadow speaking. It's not evil. It's not something to destroy. It's simply the unacknowledged side of you calling for attention. Jung taught that true growth doesn't come from rejecting your shadow, but from integrating it, making peace with it, so you can live as a whole, balanced person. Reconciling with your shadow means first admitting it's there. It's saying to yourself, yes, I've made mistakes. Yes, I've hurt others. Yes, I have flaws. But these do not define my worth. They are part of my humanity. It's about self-forgiveness, not the kind that excuses harmful behavior, but the kind that says, I see where I went wrong, and I choose to learn from it instead of living in shame. This is where real maturity begins, when you can own your past without letting it dictate your future. I once spoke with a man who for years carried deep guilt over betraying a friend's trust. He avoided thinking about it, but the guilt leaked into every part of his life, making him suspicious of others, quick to assume betrayal, and hesitant to form close bonds. It wasn't until he faced that shadow, admitting his mistake, apologizing where he could, and forgiving himself, that he was able to build deep, trusting relationships again. By embracing the part of himself he hated most, he freed himself from it. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It shows you where you have room to grow. It points to the wounds you need to heal. And it's the key to compassion, because once you understand your own darkness, you become slower to judge the darkness in others. So here's a question to sit with. What part of yourself have you been hiding from? And what would it take to stop running from it and start listening to what it's trying to teach you? Because, in Jung's view, wholeness isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real, and you can't be real without your shadow. Carl Jung had a word for the process of becoming who you were truly meant to be. He called it individuation. It's a big word, but the meaning is simple. It's the journey of becoming fully authentically yourself. Not the version of you your parents wanted, not the version your boss expects, not the version you present just to keep the peace, but the real you, the one you'd be if you stripped away every should and every expectation you've been carrying. Most people never take this journey. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. It asks you to walk away from what's safe, to question the rules you've been living by, and to risk the approval of others. But here's the truth Jung wanted us to understand. If you ignore the call to individuate, you end up living someone else's life. You might check all the boxes of success, the career, the house, the status, and still feel an emptiness you can't explain. Individuation doesn't always start with a lightning bolt of clarity. Sometimes it's a whisper, that quiet feeling that your life doesn't quite fit. The subtle ache when you see someone else living freely. The envy that isn't about possessions, but about freedom. Other times it's a crisis, a job loss, a breakup, a health scare that shatters your old identity and forces you to ask, who am I really? And what do I want now? I once knew a man who had been in a stable corporate job for over 20 years. He was good at it, well paid, respected. But every Monday morning, he felt a pit in his stomach. His real passion, teaching music. For years he told himself it was impractical, that he had responsibilities, that it was too late. But when a sudden illness reminded him how fragile time is, he made a choice. He left the corporate ladder and opened a small community music school. It wasn't easy. It wasn't as financially secure. But for the first time in decades, he woke up excited. He was living his life, not the one he had been told to live. That's individuation in action. Let's be honest, following the call of individuation will cost you something. You might lose certain comforts. You might lose people who only love the version of you that fit their expectations. But what you gain is far greater alignment between who you are inside and how you live on the outside. A deep sense of purpose that makes even hard days meaningful. The peace of knowing you didn't waste your one life living as someone else. So here's the question I want you to sit with. If fear judgment and what will people think weren't holding you back, what would your life look like? Would you change your work? Move to a new place? Finally share that part of yourself you've been hiding? Jung believed the call to individuate is one of the most important invitations life gives us. The tragedy is that most people ignore it until it's too late. But you don't have to. You can choose to answer it today. Carl Jung believed that a truly fulfilled life isn't just built on success relationships or even self-knowledge. It's also rooted in something deeper. For Jung, spiritual depth wasn't about following a specific religion. It was about connecting to the part of life that transcends the everyday, the place where meaning lives. You can have all the material success in the world and still feel an emptiness inside. That emptiness is often a sign you've been living without a deeper anchor, a connection to something larger than yourself. Jung saw the spiritual dimension as the bridge between the conscious mind and the unconscious, between our daily choices and the timeless patterns of the human soul. Without that bridge, life can feel like a series of disconnected events. With it, everything starts to form a coherent story. Spiritual depth doesn't have to mean sitting in a temple or church, unless that's meaningful to you. For some, it's found in faith or sacred texts. For others, it's discovered in the stillness of nature, the creative flow of art, or moments of quiet reflection. Through faith, your beliefs can provide guidance, resilience, and a sense of belonging to a bigger story. Through nature, watching the rhythm of the seasons can remind you that your life is part of a much larger cycle. Through art, creating or experiencing music, painting, or literature can awaken emotions and truths that words alone can't touch. The point is not where you find it, but that you make space for it in your life. I once met a woman who had spent decades building her career, traveling the world, and collecting achievements. But one day she told me, I've climbed every mountain I set for myself, and I still feel like something's missing. Her turning point came when she started hiking every Sunday alone in the hills near her home. She didn't bring her phone. She didn't track her steps. She just walked, listening to the wind in the trees, the crunch of leaves under her feet, and the rhythm of her breath. She said it was the first time in years she felt whole. Nothing about her life circumstances had changed, but her connection to life itself had deepened. Jung believed that connecting to spiritual depth isn't a one-time awakening, it's a practice. You weave it into your everyday life, just like eating or sleeping. Start your morning with a few minutes of silence, focusing on gratitude for simply being alive. Take time each week to engage in something that lifts you out of the noise, a walk in nature meditation, creating art, or listening to music that moves you. Ask yourself regularly, am I living in a way that feels connected to something larger than myself? If you paused your busy life for just 1 hour a week to connect with that deeper layer of existence, what would you choose to do? Would you sit by the ocean, paint, pray, wander through the woods? The method doesn't matter as much as the intention. When you nourish your spiritual depth, you start to see life not as a race to the end, but as a journey worth experiencing every step of the way. Carl Jung believed that a meaningful life is about balance, the ability to live fully in the present, while also creating something that outlives you. Too often we swing to one extreme or the other. Either we're so focused on chasing future goals that we forget to live, or we're so caught up in living for today that we leave nothing behind when we're gone. Think about it. If you only live for the moment, you might collect fun experiences, but your life may lack a sense of deeper purpose. If you only live for the future, you might achieve impressive milestones, but you miss the beauty of the journey itself. The sweet spot. Enjoying today while planting seeds for tomorrow. Living fully now means noticing and appreciating the moments that are happening right in front of you. Laughing over dinner with your family. Watching a sunset without checking your phone. Savoring that first sip of coffee in the morning. Building a legacy means intentionally creating something that will continue to impact others after you're gone. Raising children who feel loved, confident, and capable. Creating art, music, or writing that inspires people you may never meet. Mentoring someone and passing on wisdom you've gained the hard way. I once met a teacher who truly embodied this balance. During school hours, she poured her heart into her students, knowing her guidance would ripple through their lives long after graduation. But outside the classroom, she made time for hiking with friends, learning to cook new recipes, and traveling to places she'd always dreamed of. She told me, "I want my life to be both a joy to live and a gift to leave behind." Identify what matters most right now: relationships, health, personal passions. Make space for them every day. Decide on the legacy you want to leave. Ask yourself, if someone spoke about me in 50 years, what would I want them to say? Let the two overlap. Choose actions that bring you joy now and contribute to your future impact. If you took one step today to live more fully in the present, what would it be? And if you took one step to start building your legacy, what would that look like? Remember, legacy isn't always about grand achievements. Sometimes it's simply about leaving people better than you found them. Jung understood that when you align the joy of now with the meaning of the future, you stop living a divided life. You create a story where every chapter, from the ordinary days to the big moments, matters. Carl Jung understood something many of us avoid thinking about: a life is finite. Time is the one currency you can never earn back. We don't like to face it, but ignoring it doesn't make it any less true. And here's the paradox: the moment you truly accept that your time is limited, your life gains urgency and clarity. You stop wasting it on what doesn't matter and start spending it on what does. When you know your days are numbered, and they are, you begin to see each one as a gift, not a guarantee. Suddenly, the petty arguments, the endless scrolling, the mindless busyness lose their grip on you. You start asking, if I only had one more year, would I still be doing this? Will this matter to me in 5 years or even 5 weeks? That awareness isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Most of us live under the illusion of someday. Someday I'll take that trip. Someday I'll start my own business. Someday I'll tell them how I really feel. But here's the problem: someday is a moving target. It always feels like it's in the future until you run out of future. Jung would tell you that waiting for the perfect moment is just another way of saying never. I once met a man in his 50s who had been saving for decades to travel the world when he retired. He had binders full of plans, maps, itineraries, dream destinations. But when he finally reached retirement age, his health had declined so much that even a short flight was exhausting. He told me I thought I had all the time in the world. Turns out I just had today, and I didn't use it. That conversation stuck with me. It's the perfect example of why accepting time's limits isn't morbid, it's motivating. Accepting the limits of time doesn't mean rushing through life or living in constant anxiety. It means living with intention, choosing people over pride, choosing experiences over excuses, choosing to act now instead of waiting for a mythical right time. This is how you start to align your life with what truly matters and stop giving your precious hours to things that don't. So if you knew you had less time than you think, and you do, what would you stop doing today? And what would you finally start? Would you pick up the phone and call someone you've been meaning to? Book that trip, or maybe simply take an hour to do something that makes you feel fully alive. Jung's final wisdom here is simple but profound. Time is not endless. Don't treat it like it is. The question is, what will you do with the time you have left? So here's the truth, we can't escape. Time is finite. Every day that passes is a page you can't get back. But if you take Carl Jung's 7 lessons to heart, you can transform that limited time into a life rich with meaning, connection, and purpose. These aren't abstract theories. They are practical shifts, ways of seeing and living that can change the way you wake up in the morning and how you go to bed at night. Don't wait for the last chapter of your life to realize what the story should have been about. Don't wait until the clock is almost at zero to start living with intention. As Jung might say, the goal isn't to escape life's end, it's to live so fully that when the end comes, you meet it without fear or regret. I want to leave you with a question, and I'd love for you to share your answer in the comments. What's the single most important life lesson you've learned so far? Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you found value in this journey through Jung's wisdom, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future videos on psychology, purpose, and the meaning of life. We'll keep exploring these big questions together because learning them early is how we avoid regrets in life. And if one of Jung's lessons stood out to you, don't just think about it. Take one small step today to put it into action. Call the person you've been meaning to call. Start the project you've been putting off. Spend an afternoon doing something that makes you feel fully alive. Time is moving. You can't stop it. But you can decide how you'll use it. So live with meaning, live with courage, and above all, live now.